Welcome to the Modernize or Die podcast, CFML News Edition, where we keep you up to date with everything going on in the ColdFusion community. We'll share the latest news on events, releases to engines, frameworks, libraries, and tools, as well as spotlighting quality content from the community. Welcome to Modernize or Die podcast, the CFML News Edition, July 14th, 2020. And Brad Wood, nice to have you join us this week.
It's the Gavin and Brad show.
Yep. So expect this to go twice as long as normal, but you'll have twice as much fun, right?
Twice as long as normal. But hey, if we talk twice as fast, it's like 4 times the content.
Well, that is possible. I do speak fast sometimes. Well, first, let's thank our sponsors, Order Solutions. So without them, this podcast would not happen. So basically, one of the ways you can support Orders or thanking them is to take some of our live workshops. We have 2 live workshops this month. One of them I just completed last week, ColdBox Zero to Hero on July 9th and 10th. It went great. We had a really good group, and we had a lot of fun, and we made some good progress. And so we're happy to have that finished. But in 2 weeks' time, or I guess not this week, next week, Luis is doing the ColdBox Hero to Superhero API Edition. So that's July 23rd and 24th. There's still time to register. And CFcasts is now, subscriptions are now available on CFcast.com. And the ColdBox Masterclass videos are all recorded and scheduled to be released. We had a lot of good content released in the last week, so more and more free and paid content coming to CFcasts all the time.
And don't we have like 1 million people already signed up for CFcast? Is that the right number?
I think it's a little lower than that, but yeah, there's been some good uptake. We've got quite a few subscriptions already.
That's the goal. It's the target. You have to think ahead, Gavin.
Yep. I like
Put it out there.
Positivity. But yeah, it's going well. We're getting more and more content. We're having lots of content meetings, discussing with people what they want, and we got a lot of stuff planned. And so you'll be getting new content every week, some free and some paid. So we also want to thank our Patreon supporters because they're covering almost 50% of this podcast now with the funding from Patreon. So thank you to all of those who are supporting us, and maybe you may want to become a Patreon supporter too. But we want to thank our newest supporter, Jeff McCain.
Nice.
So,
you said it wrong. It's the Jedi mind trick. It's you want to become a Patreon supporter.
Okay, I'll leave it to
everyone at home's like, I want to become a Patreon supporter, and they immediately sign up.
Yep, at patreon.com/Order Solutions. So, okay, let's get on to the real news.
Get on to the real news.
So today, Adobe released something pretty important. You want to tell us
Patch
about that?
Day. Needs to be a little sound effect for Patch Day. So yeah, it's Patch Tuesday, and Adobe has a whole collection of Adobe products that have some patches, and one of them is ColdFusion. So if you're on ColdFusion 2016 or 2018, there is now, see what are the patch numbers? So there's now update 10 for 2018 and now update 16 for 2016. So we're working on getting those onto ForgeBox for you command box users. But the vulnerability is some kind of DLL search order hijacking, privilege escalation. I don't know what that really means. I mean, they always sound scary. From what I've seen, supposedly there's no known exploits of it, and so we don't expect there to be any attacks based on it. But obviously, we don't want to take chances when it comes to security. So Adobe also recommends using the latest version of Java as well. So when you're up there applying these updates to your server, make sure you update your Java at the same time. Of course, pretty much every version of Java has some security things, it seems, so you got to keep them both up to date.
Yep. And so good information here on the Adobe blog. We also have the tech notes as well. And Charlie Earhart right now is working on a blog post to be released to give us a little more detail about some of the extras, like the Docker images have been updated already, and a few other things. So he sent me a message saying he's working on it. So the blog post should be received shortly. So
it's also worth noting that the Adobe updates aren't just the security fixes. I know people get a little frustrated when Adobe packages non-security things with security, but there are a small handful of bug fixes There's a little bit longer list for 2018, a little bit shorter list for 2016, but they're on the tech notes that are linked to that. So make sure you keep that in mind about some of the other changes. Also, Scott asked about latest update of the version, or like Java 14. They recommended the latest LTS release. So Java 11, I believe, is still the latest long-term support version of Java.
Interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I'm using Java 14 locally just for testing, but if this is for production and you want to be in a long-term support release, I think that's still going to be Java 11 right now.
Okay, and then another thing too is Charlie said if you read the tech note for the update, not the security bulletin, you'll see a new admonition to delete any car files.
Admonition, yeah.
Yeah, sorry, I can't read.
You and your fancy words, Charlie.
Yeah.
It means you better do this, is what it means.
Yeah, so the car mechanism a feature to export admin settings from one server to another. And so he's going to write up something on that. But yeah, so basically,
I saw
read the tech note and the bulletin security and the blog post just to make sure you got everything covered.
But I'm assuming the problem would be that if you created a car file and it somehow got left around a directory that was web accessible, maybe someone could access it. Because I know that, like, passwords and things are inside of the car. But yeah, I saw that in the tech note and I was kind of curious. Either way, it's probably just a good, practice, but.
Okay, so it basically said you should delete the car files once used. Yep. Sounds good.
There we go.
Charlie's in the chat giving us all the right info. Cool.
He doesn't even need to type the blog post now. He's got it all in the chat. Copy and paste the chat. You're done.
Yep. So the next thing as well, so CFcasts content update. So we had some free content updated, as we mentioned earlier. So we've added the entire What's New in Command Box 5 series. So that big series where you have 10 videos released on that. So that is all free content now available on CFcasts. And for the subscription content, we also have added so a few more videos in the ColdBox Masterclass. So model data binding and validation, and then putting it all together. So those are being released. And as I mentioned earlier too, all the ColdBox Masterclass videos are now recorded, edited, and scheduled for release. So they'll be released over the next couple of weeks. So those of you who are waiting for the class to be completed before you registered, now you have no excuse. So go register that, and then we'll be releasing lots more. And we have a few other series that we're working on as well, so you'll start seeing those trickled out as well. So lots of great content coming to CFcasts.
Yeah, you guys are going to want to keep an eye on CFcast and get signed up for that sucker, because we are not only going through just shoving a bunch of existing content in there. A lot of it is free, like the What's in the New Command Box series. But we've been having meetings, and we're putting together boards of all the fresh new content that we're going to be putting into CFcast. So we're going to load this baby up with all sorts of premium content. So you're going to want to make sure you get signed up. It's just going to be a real portal of learning.
Yeah, and if you click on the Browse button here, you can actually see what videos are being released and when. So you can see these two here from the ColdBox Masterclass were released 5 days ago, and then all these Command Box ones were released 5 days ago as well. So you'll see that they have free for the free ones, and obviously the other ones, if you click to it, you have to log in.
I really love how fast the CFcast site is. And if you didn't notice it, we talked about it in the previous week, but there's a blog post out that covers all the technology that Eric Peterson and the team used when they made the CFcast site. And it's a really fantastic example of a modern CFML based application. So make sure you check that out if you're looking at it and wondering how we built it. I say we is like a royal we, because I had nothing to do with building it.
Yeah, me too. So, okay. Well, next up, we just wanted to remind you that ColdFusion Meetup is going strong. And in case you missed it, last week, Dan Wilson did his your best option to build modern front ends with JavaScript. And that I think the title actually got changed on that last minute to be your best options to build modern front ends with JavaScript with Dan Wilson. And the recording's available online already. And the cool thing about this is that this is episode, or I guess video 262. So Charlie has a lot of great content out there. So basically the recording is up there on the YouTube channel. And then we have 2 more scheduled for the upcoming week. So we have TJ VanToll talking about how native mobile development changed the way I write web apps. And I think that's the one that changed the name, actually. Yeah, he changed it to what web developers can learn from native mobile developers. So the title changed on that one, but it's still going to be this Thursday, July 16th, and that will be 12 p.m. Eastern time. And so it's going to be a nice session. And then in the native script type theme, we actually have next week, July 23rd. This will be 6 p.m. Eastern, so later. But that's going to be Intro to Native Script with Alex Ziskind. So it looks like we got a couple of nice topics there, and it seems like basically Charlie's keeping a couple weeks scheduled out at a time, so we got lots of good content coming out our way with that. So thank you, Charlie, for the hard work you do.
Yep, and there's the link for, I believe, the one this week. Yeah, July 16th.
Cool. And if that's not enough webinars to keep you busy, Adobe has some too. So we have July 23rd, we have Kailash Bahani talking about understanding the what, when, and how of API architecture and its various components. API Manager architecture, make sure I got that in there. And then the next week, July 30th, Adobe's doing a bird's eye view of the PMT architecture and how to harness its true potentials with Nimit Sharma. So 2 really good sessions, giving you a little more detail and sort of diving in deeper to how the PMTs, which are performance monitoring tools, and the API Manager both work. So we got a lot of good content coming out. So keep you busy in case you guys aren't doing anything over summer. Cool. The next up, we have a Docker developer survey that came through the mail today. And we were talking about it in this Box Team Slack channel. But so they have a 2020 developer survey. They want to find out more about us or you, your background, and how you're using Docker, and what are you using it for. So they want you to fill it out. They say it takes less than 10 minutes to fill it out. And the good thing is that if you want to keep Swarm alive, we want you to, basically go give some Swarm love, because everyone keeps getting on the Kubernetes bus, but the Audis love Swarm. I love Swarm. A lot of our customers are using it, and we think it doesn't need to go Kubernetes crazy on configuration. So, please fill that out. And if you love Swarm, or if you just love us, say that you love Swarm, so they can keep
Do
it
it
alive.
for us.
Yeah,
I mean, the survey takes less than 10 minutes. Just about 3 or 4 pages. Most of them are kind of multiple choice. And basically every opportunity I had to click other and type in text, I'm like, Swarm, we love Swarm. Also, ColdFusion is awesome. Did I mention command box? One of the questions is, what's one of your favorite Docker images that you don't think people know about? I'm like, order solution / command box. So hopefully we get a handful of people all filling out, as Luis says, the more Swarm cowbell.
Yep.
We'll let the people at Docker know. I don't know who the guy is who made the survey, but one of the questions, the next to the last question, the penultimate question, is him holding his dog, and it says, "Guess how much my dog weighs in kilograms?" So I had to go to Google. I had to go to Google and convert pounds to kilograms, because I don't know what those crazy kilos are, but I guessed 50 pounds. It was like 22.6 or something kilos.
Are you right? Never know.
I don't think I'll ever have a way to know if I was right, because it's not like you put in your information so you can get contacted from the survey. But I think he was just having some fun with it. So,
yep. And speaking of surveys, the State of the CF Union survey is still available. We're still waiting for an update on the April partial results, so hopefully they'll get some July results here soon and give us more. Because if they had 484 after a few months, we're hoping that there's like 1 million by now. So I did contact TerraTech to see if they'll give us an update on that, and I haven't received a response yet. But hopefully we can get an update on that. So that's pretty good.
486 responses. I don't remember what it was last week. I don't know if it's gone up at all.
I think it was 484. So maybe it is keeping track of them. So okay, maybe they're just updating as they go. So 2 people that did it last week. Thank you. We need a few more. So
vote early and often.
Yep. Okay, let's talk about our conferences.
Yeah. So
Into the Box is continuing through our live workshops, and last week I taught the ColdBox Zero to Hero class. That workshop was on Thursday, Friday last week. It was a great group.
Nice.
We had
How
fun.
many people did you have?
We just had a small group, about 4 or 5. So last time
That's
we
good
had,
size,
a bigger group, but it was kind of nice that we could, each share our screen and sort of show examples. Because normally we do that inside. We'll talk about more stuff, but when you have a bigger group, you lose some of that. So it was nice.
Yeah. And that's one of the nice things about our orders trainings is we specifically try to keep a really small group. Some of the other, like the Adobe conferences, they'll have 150 people in a workshop, and you basically don't get any one-on-one help. And so our orders workshops are always usually a max of like 10 people. And so it's all one-on-one. Here, share your screen. We'll talk through what you're doing. Kind of guaranteed you won't get left behind.
Yep, exactly. And so that was a good session. And next week, Luis is going to be doing the ColdBox Hero to Superhero API Edition on July 23rd and 24th. And they're full days, so you have basically 2 6-hour days. They are 9 to 12 Central, and then a 1-hour lunch break, and 1 to 4 p.m. Central. So you have to get a little early if you're on California side of the world like me. I have to get pretty early to teach the class, but it should work best for all time zones. So tickets are available, and there's a podcast code for the coupon. You can use podcast 10 to get 10% off. And then if you actually went to ITB into the box online, you should have a coupon for 15% off. Contact us if you didn't have that. And the cool thing is Luis is actually upgrading this ColdBox Zero to Hero API Edition from ColdBox 5 to ColdBox 6. So he's tweeting or actually chatting in the live chat with us. He might even be adding some more asynchronous goodness into it from ColdBox 6. So
nice. So it's going to be as up to date of a training as you can get.
Yep, exactly. So pretty neat. I know a lot of people that I taught in the workshop I just did and the previous workshop in June are actually signing up for this one as well. So it should be a good group there, and they're really trying to step up their game. So let us know if you guys are wanting to do another ColdBox Zero to Hero. We're on demand. We're going to basically try and schedule those, and we're going to try and get some of those other workshops scheduled here soon. So tell us what you want, and we'll get those taken care of for you. Okay.
Sweet.
So next, we actually have a new conference that might be interested for some people, Alexa Live 2020. And so this is basically a free online, and that's going to be Wednesday, July 22nd from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. Pacific. So it's just a short little, free developer community event. So if you guys are wanting to find out a little more about Alexa or see what's going on, what people are doing with it and everything, it'd be a good little online community event. So it's pretty cool. I've done a lot of Alexa stuff. I like playing with it, and I've done a little bit for work-related stuff, but it's definitely fun to play with. And there's quite a few people who have done some sessions on it, so there's videos online you can find as well. But yeah, so check that out if you guys are interested in playing with Alexa Live.
We had to rename our Alexa to Echo because I have a daughter named Alexis, and every time we'd be like, Alexis, load the dishwasher. Our Echo would be like, I don't understand that. We're like, not you.
Yep, exactly. We got my in-laws living with us now, and so we always joke that Alexa can't understand them or whatever. So we're gonna order them.
Because of their accent.
Well, no, my in-laws they're American. Yeah, they do talk funny, but different type of funny.
Oh, why can't I understand them then?
Well, because they're old, right? Old. They can't remember the name.
That's ageist, Gavin.
It
Jeez.
is. And so there's an Amazon Silver Alexa that they released at least a funny video.
It's like Centrum Silver.
And so.
I'm not sure about that.
But anyway, it makes fun of them because
help! I've fallen and I can't get up.
It has certain features like it'll answer to any name you call it, and stuff like that. So
I think I saw that video. It was like a joke video, right?
it's pretty funny. Yeah, I showed the in-laws, and I've showed it to them over and over again because they've probably forgotten since the last time. So anyway. So a reminder too that the Adobe ColdFusion Certification is now online now too. So previously you had to do that at one of the CF summits, but since they've been going online, so is the training. So I think they said there's about 40 or 50 hours of online videos.
Wow.
So a lot of great content. And me and you actually helped Nolan when he was teaching that at the CF Summit.
Yeah.
Some pretty good information in there, like a couple of things I didn't know. Adobe specific things and a couple of features that just, you clear it up. So even though we use it all the time, it's kind of interesting that I think you can always learn something from these classes.
Oh yeah, there's always something to learn, little tips and tricks and stuff. Yeah, I'm glad to see that Adobe made an online version of this, because they were, it was, like you said, it was only kind of in person, but now that the conferences have all gone online, there was no way to do it. So
Yep.
it's also just good to see an active certification program again. It's been a lull for a few years for people looking to get certified.
Yep, not certifiable. Okay, so with that being said, obviously the Adobe ColdFusion Summit 2020 is replacing the CF Summit West, so we're actually doing the online event. I emailed out to Alicia yesterday, so I know I'm a little slow on that, but just asking her for more information on it. There are information on it from last year's speakers and sessions, so just don't get confused. That isn't this year's lineup or anything. So as a previous speaker, I'm expecting an email from them at some point to see who's going to be, willing to do that online again. So right now it's bookmarked for sometime in November. That's all the information we have on it. But hopefully Adobe will be announcing more of that very soon. It is free though, so that's at least a positive. You don't have to travel or get hotels, so definitely in most people's price range. So hopefully we'll get a few more attendees online.
What would be nice is if Adobe took all the money they normally, sink into CF Summit West, because I know it's not cheap to put a conference on in Vegas, and they turned all that money into like door prizes for the online conference. Just think of what they could give away, a new car.
Yeah, that would be pretty cool. But something says no.
Looks like they may even have some sponsorship opportunities, even though it's online. So if you have a ColdFusion based company and you want to sponsor the online version, it says to reach out to Kishore at adobe.com.
Yeah, and I'm not sure if that is. Yeah, so
it appears to apply to a new online version, because the FAQ section has a COVID-19 response, which I think those are always just silly. And then will there be a charge for the online event? So the FAQ section does appear to be updated for the online event.
Cool. Well, maybe unique.
What are they doing in response to COVID? They made the conference online. That's what they're doing.
Yep. So very cool. Well, I'll email Kishore as well, since his name is all over this FAQ, and maybe I'll get information before you do.
Every line of the FAQ is basically contact Kishore, contact Kishore, contact Kishore.
Yeah.
He is the marketing manager, so it makes sense.
Yep, for sure. It's his baby. Okay, CFcasts, we're still waiting, and with the way the world is looking, we're not sure what's going to happen there either.
I think we know the answer to that one.
Well, I'm hoping that maybe they'll think about doing an online version or something too. It could be useful, nice to see a different set of speakers too. Otherwise, we might have to step up and do something. Maybe have a CFcasts week or something where we do some live stuff there for subscription holders or something.
Interesting. Can we do live streams via CFcast? Is that possible?
I'm sure we could figure out some way to do it. So, yeah. So that's the conferences at the moment. A lot of other random conferences here and there. If you see any that you'd like us to talk about and mention, please let us know. With that being said, let's jump into the blogs, tweets, and videos of the week here. So that first blog post is obviously the Adobe's ColdFusion release, which has happened early this morning. So hot off the press there. We've talked about it a little bit, so we can skip past that. But definitely want to do that. Now, we also got a tweet from Julian Halliwell about Lucy MariaDB extension fix. So I thought that was kind of interesting. I didn't even know that there's a specific extension for MariaDB, but I guess we use MySQL most of the time, or MS SQL. But so he's made some changes there for OSGI issues, and so now the latest version of the driver is available in your admin there. So,
I don't think there's a separate extension. If you go to the Lucy download page, which lists all the official extensions, there's just the MySQL extension that says JWC Type 4 driver for the MySQL and MariaDB databases. So it appears to reuse the same extension.
Well, this might be a separate one that he's created then.
Oh, that appears to be a custom one. You're right. That's not the Lucy repo. That's CF Simplicity.
Yeah, so Julian Halliwell.
So I'm curious what his does that the sort of official MySQL one doesn't do.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm like you. I don't think I realized that he had an actual dedicated one.
Yeah, so Oh, it does do a different query result. It changes the key from generated key, not generated underscore key. So you may need to. It does different variables, so that might throw you off.
Interesting. Was that the whole reason he created it? Just have different variable names?
I don't know. I just noticed that is one thing in his migration guide.
Huh.
So I don't know. Maybe it's easy to use this.
From Bruce Kirkpatrick.
Yep. Anyway, so
you know what we need to find out? Is this baby on ForgeBox?
yes, it is.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yep, sure is. I did check that.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yep. So thanks, Julian, for updating that. And yeah, we hopefully get a few more people using it now they know about it. And yeah, I used MariaDB for a while, and there was a couple of issues when it first came out that I just couldn't use it. There was some setting and the drivers just didn't handle. But I've been wanting to see the difference for a while, because we like supporting non-Oracle places sometimes. but yeah. Okay, so next up we have a blog post from Brian Class, Beyond the Basics of Using AWS S3 and CFML. And this one he's talking about file versioning in S3 buckets. And so another great post in the series. He's got quite a few lined up here for S3. But basically when editing files of any kind, modern applications expect to have access to previous versions. And so adding a versioning system isn't easy. But S3 kind of makes it a little easier for you. So
S3 has something built in for this then? Is that what this is
Yeah,
covering?
you can turn on file versioning and
well, that's
basically
cool.
in the buckets, and you can say how many you want. And basically says it comes at no additional cost except for the copies of the files you store. So you obviously pay for the site, but you can also do life cycles, so you can keep the copies for so long. So maybe after 6 months you get rid of the older versions or stuff like that.
Right.
But
so you can the API lets you list the versions for a given file.
Yep.
And then you can get the file at a specific version. So
yeah, and so
it's kind of cool. Yeah, you just have to keep in mind if you're storing large files, and let's say you're like, oh, let's store 10 versions, and all your files change often, you basically would have 10 times the amount of storage.
Yeah. And so he's giving a warning about cost increases, though, because if you have versioning on a file, you can delete it, but it actually isn't deleted, so you can actually undelete it later.
It's like the recycling bin in Windows.
Yeah.
Why is my hard drive still full? I put everything in the recycling bin.
Yeah, so it starts to add up. So you may want to delete files older than a certain maximum or whatnot. So he said there's no way to limit the number of versions kept or to set that maximum. So yeah, you probably should use a lifecycle rule. Like I said, the lifecycle rules are pretty neat. He talked about that in a previous post, but even offers you to message on Twitter about it. So
we should check and see if our S3 wrapper covers that API, because I doubt it does.
Good point.
Because we have a S3 SDK that we use in a lot of our apps, but I bet we don't have support in there for these version things. Because his example is just showing direct access to the Java SDK. So.
Okay. Next up, we have one from Benedel, testing the WKHTML to PDF with Docker and Lucy. So, as he mentioned a few months ago, James Moberg gave a whole bunch of command line utilities he uses because he kept popping up and offering all these different options. So he wrote us a nice blog post about a whole bunch of the ones he uses. And so he decided to play with this, the PDF generation, since he's been doing that with, for InVision. So the interesting part I liked about this too is he actually went through his Docker container playground setup. And so he actually went through and gives his Docker file too. And there was a couple of things that I hadn't seen before, like this Debian front end non-interactive as an environment variable. And just a couple little things in here which are good. But yeah, he went through and started playing with it, and so he has Docker Compose set up for it and everything. But yeah, you got to start playing with it, and there's actually some pretty neat things in here. He has a little, a lot of code, but at the bottom, I think he has a little graphic that shows you some of the effects that it generates. And so he has this little animated GIF that shows you all the different pieces, and so basically, sections, different fonts and everything. And if you go to section 4, he has, absolutely positioned images, which is pretty neat. And then in 5, background images. So basically the big plus on this is that it supports a lot more than CF document tag. So, additional style sheets and JavaScript type stuff or an HTML that it'll handle. So, if your stuff isn't working with a basic CF document that's basically got flying source underneath it, this might be an option for you. And one thing he says is being able to clip images like with an overflow hidden wasn't possible before. So, kind of neat.
Nice.
Yeah. My PDF stuff hasn't got too tricky lately. Pretty standard reports and everything, but it's nice to know there's a bunch of tools out there for more advanced, because I know when I had to do certificates for things, that printing those out, making them look right, just like the certificates they had to have, that was kind of a pain. So I bet these would make life a lot easier, especially when you have to print it on top of an existing format. That was always fun.
Yeah. PDFs are always a bit of a pain.
Yep. So next we also had a live stream from Matthew Clemente. So this one, you should be happy to know he's back from Node, Brad.
Yeah, back from the brink,
Yeah.
the darkness.
So in this one here, he was working on a CFML module on ForgeBox for a weighted round robin. And so as usual, he is learning by trial and error. He likes to play and figure things out. So he was messing with creating a module to commit to ForgeBox and figuring how to run TestBox inside of it as well. And but he did take the idea of this module and some of the code from npm and then converting it to CFML. So I think you're accepting of those types of uses, right?
Yeah, I had skimmed through a little thing he'd written up on it, but I wasn't actually sure what he was doing with the weighted round robin, or if it was just a super generic framework where you would have it, call a function to do whatever you wanted.
Yeah, I mean, basically, he figured out that if you did some normal weighting where you had, something is a 90% weight and something's 10% weight, if you wanted to like randomly show that with a round robin, it would probably show the same person like 6 or 7 times before you got to the second person. So in this system, it not only does the round robin so it switches them up, it'll get a person, and then if you got the person with 90% weight, you're going to get the other person next. Like, it'll make sure that you get through all of them before it started repeating and basing on the weight. So it's more likely to have some with a higher weight first, but it still does get through the list. So yeah, and he said the math was kind of crazy. That's why he used the npm1 as a basis, so you wouldn't have to think about that part too much.
See, I've done some stuff like that before, but I didn't bother trying to, force everyone to at least show up once or whatever. I just said as long as you have enough, samples, the weight will eventually, end up right in the end, even if, the first 6 or the 90% weighted one, like just give it time and the percentages will all match. So that's interesting that he tried to include all of them up front, I suppose, however you'd word that.
Yeah. Obviously he talks through it. I watched the majority of it, and then afterwards he wasn't able to finish it, so he came back, and that's what the blog post I think he mentioned was follow-up for that. So, but again, I like seeing the live streams, and it's good because it's not a polished thing. He basically clicks around and sort of talks it out like, okay, I want to do this. I'm wondering if I could do this, and he tries it, and I like learning from that. The trial and error is good for everybody. I like seeing inside of other smart people's heads. That's where I learn too. So very cool. And then we had a blog post from Nerd Vision. And,
Nerd Vision.
And so they've done some work recently. They did some hard work with their team, and now they officially support ColdFusion and Lucy.
So if you're not familiar, Nerd Vision is made by the same company that makes Fusion reactors. So Integral is the actual company name. So Fusion Reactor is the existing server monitor tool you're probably already familiar with. So Nerd Vision is just another one of their products.
Yep. And so they even put a thing here saying that why are we supporting CFML? Because they grew up with it. They've been doing it since '96. But yeah, so they said a lot of things have changed, and so yeah, it's pretty interesting. And yeah, I like the fact that there's a lot more information, and I want to find out more about the Nerd Vision thing. So
yeah, I've played with it a little bit, but only on Adobe ColdFusion so far. I need to find some time to mess with it on Lucy. It's basically sort of like, I don't want to like pigeonhole it. I'm sure it does some more things, but from what I've touched on so far, it's kind of like the production debugger feature of Fusion Reactor, which is a really powerful sort of web-based debugger as opposed to an IDE plugin. But it's sort of just that extracted out in its own kind of standalone product. And what's nice about NerdVision is it has that free tier. So if you just want to play with it, with yourself and with some limitations on it, you can do that for free, and then you can upgrade it to, use it with more developers and get more features out of it. But you can put breakpoints in your code, you can run your app, you can stop the threads, you can introspect the variables and things. But instead of being like a locally running server that you open up on port like 8088 or whatever, like Fusion Reactor, it's all via sort of a cloud-based web interface that communicates back and forth with your local server. I'll also note bless their hearts, they have a space in ColdFusion. I guess it only supports ColdFusion 3. That's a shame they don't support modern versions, huh?
Depends on where you read it. But...
This is David Thacker's post. I'll harass him on Slack right now. But anyway, I noticed in some messages they said that they would support CommandBox soon. And I was a little confused by that at first because you can already use it with CommandBox. You just have to add the JVM arg in your server.json. That's exactly how I've tested it. But apparently, in what I'd gotten from David Thacker on a private message on Slack, apparently it looks like they're looking to build a CommandBox module, much like what I did for the Fusion Reactor module, but it just automatically includes the JVM arg for you for NerdVision instead. So that's apparently what they mean if you see any notes about supporting CommandBox. But if you're thinking, I use CommandBox, does that mean I can't use NerdVision? Yeah, you can absolutely use it. It's just up to you to put the JVM arg yourself in your server.json right now. That's the only thing.
That's hard work. I don't know if I can handle that. But it also supports Java, Node, Python, and CFML. So it's got a good collection already, and they're adding more.
Yeah, this is one thing that's kind of interesting about NerdVision is Fusion Reactor really focused on the JVM, and of course ColdFusion's on the JVM. But this is really something they're trying to market to a swath of languages. And I think a lot of companies might find themselves using Node for some other things, using ColdFusion or maybe Spring Boot for some other things, and this gives them kind of a consolidated platform that can help them debug across all those languages. So it's a very cool kind of business concept, I think, from the Integral guys.
Cool. So here, next up we have a blog post from Ben Nadal, and this is an interesting one. I'll put a security warning in the front of it, apart from Dan Wilson being in the picture. Evaluating database records that contain ColdFusion interpolation expressions in Adobe ColdFusion 2018. So this one, he was basically trying to figure out if you could store something in the database like hello, name, and pounds, and then run it when you pull it out of pull it out and run it at request at runtime, and then use it in some part of the dynamic evaluation. So, first things first, running anything like that out of your database that users can put in there is a big security risk, right? So just and he puts it at the bottom, but I'm putting it at the front just in case. But so he talked about using the evaluate function, and then also talked about the DE, which is delayed evaluation. And so he walks through this process and loops through a bunch of messages with different prefixes for different things, looping through them and whatnot. So you can see in here you have all the things working. So with that code, he's using evaluate, and a lot of people will freak out on evaluate, but it's just showing that it's possible. We use the same type of thing in like CBML services, but we use tokens, so we'll use things like @ symbols or whatnot, so not specifically pound signs, but we can still dynamically evaluate it, but usually we sort of do it in a controlled way. So it's interesting. But he was just playing with an idea, as usual. Ben and his thought experiments, pretty interesting. But he did mention the very dangerous if you're letting database content from users get.
Yeah, that was kind of my first thought when I saw that headline. We've worked on some client code together actually that had sort of custom built CMSs with ColdFusion expressions that were interpolated right out of a database field. It's not something I care for.
Yeah, I mean, I like the idea of more tokens and stuff.
Well, yeah, what ContentBox does is you can't just put like straight ColdFusion code, which could easily contain something malicious. We have special placeholders where you can insert, a ContentBox setting, but we have like little curly brace placeholders that are just find and replaced. And that has a much narrower scope of functionality as opposed to just, throwing it at the ColdFusion interpreter and being like, execute this.
Yeah.
So you definitely got to be careful with that stuff.
Yeah, we also use one of the little template libraries too inside of Content Box as well, because obviously you can render your own views how you want. I think we're using Pebble, I believe. It's hard to remember them all, but pretty interesting. So we also have a blog post from Matt Gifford. Where's he been? He was on a rampage last year with blog posts everywhere, and then he went silent. Must have been a good batch of gin or something. So. But he's been busy working hard and with Azure pipelines. And so he reached out on Twitter last week asking for some help because he wanted to get Command Box up and running on Azure. And he had some luck because Pete Freitag says, I got a guide for that. And so his GitHub Foundio Fixinator, he has a guide here. It's basically you can show you how to get up and running on pipelines. And so that shows you how to work with command box and everything, and so it curls down, unzips the command box and all that. So Matt walked through his process and shares his scripts too, so you can see the different steps that he's going through to build it. Actually, I hadn't done much with Azure, so it's kind of nice to see their layout and their how that works. And so he walked through the whole process, and it's kind of neat. So if you guys are thinking about Azure, and I think someone actually tweeted about their company just bought into Azure, so we'll be mentioning their tweet later, so they might need to go read their blog post too. So pretty cool. Yeah, all these different pipelines, it's hard to keep up with them all, but nice to see the common things win out, right? They're mainly Docker based, and they can all load up command box, and once you're there, we know we're in our element, so we can do everything we need.
Yep, it's great to see guides for each of these platforms. The next one on my list to play with is Github Actions, which I know some people out there have already played with. It's on the list of things. It's like when I actually have free time, I will play with this kind of thing.
Well, that's part of the reason I want to do a CFcast, pipelines thing where I do the same sort of tasks on each of the different platforms. So do Bitbucket and GitLab and Azure, and sort of build out all the different pipelines and do GitHub Actions and be a good excuse to play with the ones I don't use as much as others. So I think that'd be a fun one to do, because I'd like to do more GitHub Actions too, but I use all the rest, so I guess I can't be too crazy. So next we actually have someone who's looking for a job, but it's a throwback in a tweet form. So remember this one, Brad? ColdFusion lives.
Yeah, I have that shirt.
Yep.
Wasn't that one of the shirts we got at
CF United, I think.
Oh. So I never went to CF United, but I used to get a lot of shirts from my ColdFusion meetups, like in Kansas City. So I would get shirts from there as well.
Yep. So Christine, just showing off her 20-year-old tee. Well, not quite 20 years old, but I guess she's been doing ColdFusion 20 years. So anyway, she's got a GitHub link there to go check out her resume and stuff. If you're looking for a remote worker, she might be the one for you. At least she's got cool taste in t-shirts. But yeah, pretty cool. I didn't get that one. I never went to CF United, so I'm not one of the true old schools.
I didn't work at a place that would pay for me to go to conferences back then. That was my problem.
Yep. Okay. Well, next up we actually have another tweet, and this one is from Mr. Closure, or Webman D-Man. So Closure right here. But basically he said he's on his way there, especially since the company is subscribing to everything Azure. So it's up to him to figure out how to move away from the monolith server. So in parallel, he sees he needs to catch up with command box servers, FuseGuard, Fixinator, Testbox, ColdBox 6, Modernize or die, right? So I'm sure.
Die.
Well, hopefully you don't die. You'll be fine. But yeah, a lot of good content, and be interesting. See if you can maybe share some of that content too. Share your process. It'd be nice to see that stuff working on Azure as well. So pretty cool. Next up on the list, we have a blog, and this one is actually from the Visual Studio itself. There's a little tutorial. So if you want to do remote development of containers, and I know we've mentioned this a couple of times, but they have this little tutorial here. So basically using Visual Studio Code, using Docker, you can start the Docker image, and then you basically check the Docker, and then check your installation, and then connect into that container. and then from there you can actually start running your remote development inside of it. So you can choose what remote development you want to use. They have all these different packages. Obviously ColdFusion is probably not on the list, but anyway, there's a lot of different things in here. And the cool thing is, once the container is built, then you can set everything up in there, and you're developing inside a node container. So it's pretty cool. So it's sort of a walkthrough tutorial if you want to check it out and see how it works. But this is sort of the way a lot of people are leaning for development. That way you don't have to set up your machine to be a development machine. You basically have a Docker image. So if you stop working in this language or whatever, you just throw away the Docker image and you're done. And you don't have to worry about uninstalling all the extensions or plugins or anything like that, because it's all based in where you're developing inside the container. So
this looks cool, but I'll be honest, I don't ever want to have to do this. I already don't even like using local containers over just the pure ease and simplicity of a command box server. It sounds even worse to try to use a container that's like across the country in a data center somewhere when you need to troubleshoot the file system. But if you had to do it, this does seem like it would be way better than SSH init and using Nano.
Yeah, well, I like the whole
VI.
idea of the GitHub's, is it code spaces? That basically does that for you. It spins it up, and you can use VS Code in the browser to connect to their Docker container for a project. So, I mean, I'm hoping that that's something usable and user-friendly and price-friendly, so we can maybe do that with like ColdBox and stuff. So if someone wants to work on our ColdBox, they'll instantly get all the extensions we need and everything. So they don't, we can get our code formatting and our style guides all built in.
Yeah. So we need to figure out how to get out of the box support for stuff like this for ColdFusion, because I mean, look at the list on this particular VS Code thing: C++, Go, Java, .NET Core, Node, PHP, Python. These appear to all be like just built in, ready to go. Hey, you're a PHP developer. Boom, it's already set up for you. CFML needs to be in that list where everything's all ready to go. You click it. We have all the extensions and stuff already set up. And to do that, we need people like you to harass the heck out of people like Visual Studio or VS Code and be like, hey, where's ColdFusion support? How can we help do this?
Yep, for sure.
ColdFusion never gets any love for this kind of stuff.
Yep, just a note from the chat. I see Pete Freitag said, check out the Into the Box presentation because it covers mostly covers GitHub Actions. And I did see that presentation. That was good, Pete. Yeah, so definitely a good resource if you are going to do GitHub Actions. Pete's presentation from ITB, available on CFcasts. Okay, so next on our list, let's talk about Find a Job. So our getcfmljobs.com site that we usually use to reference all our jobs now has over 48 ColdFusion positions from 36 companies across 23 locations in 5 countries. They posted one new job this week, which was a full-time senior ColdFusion developer remote position in USA. And it was posted July 12th, and so we can get some more information on that job. But also
Readingplay.com remote.
Okay.
You're looking for an outstanding ColdFusion developer. If you're not outstanding, you need not apply.
Yep. But it's a pretty good little job description there.
They are urgently hiring. Hey, beggars can't be choosers, people. Do you want an outstanding one, or do you just want one?
Yep.
See if they list anything here.
And the job listing from Indeed has a little more details on it.
ColdFusion, JavaScript, SQL, HTML. Required. Ooh, ColdBox. I'm liking these people already. Required CFScript, ColdBox, and stored procs.
Very
cool. All right. You need to be a little outstanding, somewhat outstanding. They also use the phrase software development lifecycle, and that's like extra like marketing bling bonus word because everybody says that. Doesn't mean anything, but everybody uses it.
Yeah.
The SDLC. Unit testing. Hey, I'm liking this.
Brad.
Object-oriented coding. This is good.
Uh-oh. Luis, better watch out. Brad looks interested.
I'm
not
planning on applying. I'm just saying that. If you're looking for a place that's not like, manage our 75-year-old legacy code base that everyone hates, those are the kind of places nobody wants to apply for.
Yep. Cool. On Twitter, we also had another job position that we found. So there's also a contract for a ColdFusion developer for Allied Consultants in Austin, Texas. So that one was posted via Twitter, and the link is in there. So if you like, they're they've been in 27 years. They've been a premier provider of technical and business professionals to clients in Texas. They're looking for an experienced ColdFusion developer to be a key resource on a technical services team. So
Contract.
yeah, so it's a contract position. Quite a lot of skills listed in here too. They do some Oracle.
Oh, they're using Cold Fusion as well. I guess they're allowed to use NerdVision. They had the version of ColdFusion with the space in it.
They must include ColdFusion FuseBox 5 or newer methodology.
That's not ColdBox, folks. Also Oracle, so choose wisely.
Yep.
Do you want to work with FuseBox and Oracle? If you don't have a job, maybe it'll do.
Yep. So
Express.
a couple of jobs there. So still jobs available, guys.
Yeah.
If you need something, have a look there. And they seem to be using it pretty commonly. You know, there's quite a few jobs listing out there on Get CFML jobs, so definitely check those out.
Interesting. This job requires knowledge of internet security exposures and how to code to prevent the application from being hacked or hijacked. I mean, honestly, that should just be on every application. I mean, everybody should know that, but just good. They mentioned that twice. Knowledge of internet security. I think they copied and pasted it twice.
Possibly.
But hey, I'm glad to see that they're asking, hey, do you know how to code secure code? Because that should be something that interviewers ask when you're interviewing someone, at least in my opinion, as a person who likes security. I'm sure Pete would agree. Isn't that right, Pete?
Okay, so next up we have our ForgeBox module of the week. And this week we're going to talk about the Lucy spreadsheet. This is not actually an extension, and even though it's called Lucy Spreadsheet, it's a spreadsheet library for Lucy and Adobe ColdFusion. So
now there is a CF spreadsheet extension for Lucy, which has the equivalent sort of functionality of the Adobe ColdFusion CF spreadsheet. But like Gavin just said, this is just a library that you create and call CFCs that does the same basic type of things, but it's not like a drop-in replacement for the CF spreadsheet tag. It's more of a
that's one of the
API.
downsides they said for using this library versus an extension. The existing code needs adapting to invoke the library. Existing CFML spreadsheet functions and the CF spreadsheet tag won't work with this. But it does give you a lot of good pros and a lot of benefits here.
Yeah, so, I've always heard this has a lot of features that makes it worth using.
Yeah, and I'll scroll down in a minute so you can see even more. But it fixes a lot of outstanding bugs and omissions. No dependency on Lucy within the jar files. A lot of good things here, but completely written in script, which is a good thing. And if you scroll down, you'll see that there's a lot of functions here that support ColdFusion functions. So there's a lot of functions here. And then extra functions not available in ColdFusion. So this is the extra things that you might want to use that ColdFusion doesn't allow you. And there's some convenience methods as well. CSV to query, binary from query, there's quite a few different things. And they go into some detail too. This is a really long, pretty detailed. And
it's written all in CFML too.
Yep. It does use Java Loader to load the POI Java libraries, and those are pretty handy. I've used the POI ones before. So,
yeah, me too.
So yeah. So that was based off Ben Adele's work from the POI utility for a long time ago, and Java Loader, which is obviously Mark Mandel's. So pretty cool spreadsheet functionality. It's kind of nice that you can have something cross-platform too, because a lot of times Lucy's version versus Adobe's version, they're a little different. But it sounds like he's got a lot of extra things in there too, so it's pretty neat. So very cool. And Scott said that streaming XLSX looks pretty cool too. It does sound pretty fun.
Mingo asked in the chat, doesn't CF spreadsheet use POI? And I believe the answer is yes.
Yeah, it's just set up as an extension, so it's easier.
I think this is just more direct access to the POI and its API as opposed to the sort of abstraction of CF spreadsheet.
Yeah, CF spreadsheet probably just focuses on making sure that the CF spreadsheet tags functionality is maintained. So if you upgrade from one to the other, from Adobe over, that those would work. But yeah, it's definitely an option. If you need some more power, maybe you can tap into this one here. So
see, I've had to use POI in the past because I had versions of ColdFusion that clients were using, and they were using an older version of POI internally. and I couldn't just update the jars because the CF spreadsheet tag in that version of ColdFusion, I think it was CF11, was only worked at that version POI, and so I was dependent upon Adobe to someday, hopefully, maybe update the POI stuff. So I, dropped in my own jars and just called them directly. So this would be the equivalent of doing that, but sort of a better CFML API wrapped around it.
Yeah, I remember using it in even CF9, the POI stuff, to get some advanced features that I didn't even think were in there at that point. So,
Yep.
Yeah. And yeah, Mingo Hagen said that he went to the POI directly because of access and to work around CF bugs. So, yep, it's definitely the POI libraries.
Been there, done that.
Yep, definitely good. So, thanks again for uploading that to ForgeBox so the whole community can share it. Much appreciated.
ForgeBox.
Okay, next up, our VS Code hint, tip, and trick of the week. And this one may look like something we've already done. It's called Bracket Pair Colorizer 2. And so Luis recommended this one. I'm like, I got version 1. What's the difference? And so the big difference is, drum roll please, V2 uses the same bracket parsing engine as VS Code now. So it's greatly increasing speed and accuracy. And so they did also change a few settings, and they cleaned them up and everything, so there's some backwards compatibility. So that's why they made a version 2. The cool thing is, though, and the settings are below, but there's a lot of things that I don't even think were in version 1. So like now you have options for the force unique opening color, so the opening color can be unique every time, and you can do, basically they can rotate through, or they can always be the same. And you've got the option for the color cycle. So does it cycle through each time you get a new bracket? And you can also change the color mode. So if it's for different types. So sometimes the opening can be based on type, or you can just say any bracket can be colorized. You can also do things in the side, in the gutter. I didn't know you could do this. And now the show brackets and gutter will actually show in the gutter where they start and end.
Oh, interesting.
So I was like, ooh.
So if you have like a giant callback, you can kind of track the start and end of it.
Yep, and then they have the vertical line option too, so you can see vertically inside the app where it is. Yep, and there's even here where you got the horizontal lines, you can see the indentation. So lots of cool things. I didn't know if it was in version 1, I just didn't know about it or not, but there's a lot of pretty neat things in this one. So again,
cool.
Without it, your life is really tough.
I kind of like the multiple colors. So Command Box actually has a very basic implementation of the same thing that I wrote that works with single quotes, double quotes, curly braces, square braces, and parentheses. I wrote it for the REPL, but it works in the main shell as well. So if you're in the Command Box REPL and you have several nested sets of parentheses, all it does is if your cursor is to the right of one of those characters, it highlights it in red as well as highlighting the starting bracket or parenthesis that goes with it. But this is kind of cool where they actually like show the nesting with colors. I'm like thinking now, I wonder how hard it would be for me to make Command Box actually color code each of them with colors.
Yeah, I thought it was neat too how you can, like I say, choose the different options for different brackets and do different starting colors, and yeah, lots of pretty cool features in it. So I really like that one. So I'm gonna have to upgrade from version 1 to version 2 now. But yeah, like when we were doing the training last week, I gave people a few of the extensions because every time we're trying to look at their code, I'm like, it's really hard to see without all of my fancy extensions that highlight the code and do this and do that. So, we updated them and gave them a whole bunch of cool little extensions to work with. So, but yeah, it's definitely a fun one. So it's semi-repeat. We try not to repeat extensions here, but I think it's worth the update, especially with the speed. So big files, you don't want it to be churning and taking forever. So, Okay. So next up, let's talk about our Patreon supporters. So again, thank you to Jeff McCain, our newest supporter. He just signed up this week. So much appreciated. And thanks again for all of you Patreon supporters. If you go to patreon.com/ordersolutions, you can find a package that you can sign up for and be a paid member and supporter. So we thank you for all your support there. And like I said, half of the cost of running this podcast is paid from Patreon supporters. So we want to thank each and every one of you for making this happen. It's fun, but also really good for the community. So So let's go through, and I think it's my turn. So I will go through
for
and
it.
thank them all. So thank you, Ben Adele, Brett DeLine, Kyle Von Stetten, Charlie Earhart, Da Lee, Dan Card, Daniel Garcia, David Bellinger, Tadias Lesnicki, Don Bellamy, Eric Hoffman, Gary Knight, Jan Yannick, Jeff McCain, Jeremy Adams, Jordan Clark, Joseph Lamry, Kai Koenig, Laxma Terahadi, Matthew Clemente, Mingo Hagen, Ryan Hughes, Scott Steinbeck, Sean Oden, Stephen Klotz, Simnatrix, and Yogesh Mithir. So thank you, all of you. The funds go directly into supporting this podcast, and it's good to see a lot of you are in the chat talking and harassing us. We appreciate
Getting
it.
their money's worth.
Yep, exactly. So
You're only allowed to harass us in the chat if you're a Patreon supporter. Little known fact. So
yep.
You pay for that right.
Yeah. So no, it's good to see that, and we want to thank you, and we also want to thank everyone else who commits to Order Solutions through filing issues or pull requests or documentation updates. It all does help, but for funding the podcast, the Patreon supporters are doing their fair share. So we're hoping we can keep pushing those numbers up, and then get that fully funded. So we'd like to be able to do a little more, but. Thanks everybody for listening to another show, and I'm surprised we're barely on the hour, so we didn't talk that long after all. Brad, what's wrong? Are you feeling okay?
Couldn't get a word in edgewise.
Yep. Sorry, I just talk too much sometimes. But yep. So thanks everybody. Have a great week, and we'll catch you next week.
All right.
Have a good one.
Sayonara. Adios.
Bye. Show notes for this episode can be found at cfmlnews.modernizeordie.io, where you can also subscribe to your favorite podcast player like Spotify or iTunes. We also have the link to YouTube to find more videos just like this. The music used in this podcast is under a royalty-free license from Sound.com and Blue Tree Audio.